Hello and welcome. Yeah, I'm happy to announce today that I can now support Azure Stack HCI with Hydra. And that means we can do nearly completely the same with virtual machine on Azure Stack HCI regarding Azure Virtual Desktop like normal Azure virtual machines. So let me show how it works and how it looks like. So that is my Hydra installation with multiple tenants. And I also added a new tenant where I have Azure Stack HCI in. You don't need a special tenant for that. You can also mix host pools with virtual machine on Azure and also host pools with virtual machine on Azure Stack HCI. Or you could also mix different session host types in a host pool, but that maybe don't make sense. So let us take a look. So let us go to this multi-user session host pool. And if you go in, we can directly see what happens. We can see that we have several hosts in. Nearly all of them are running. One is in the starting mode, and that is a good thing. Hydra supports also autoscaling for HCI. Hydra also detects automatically if a host is running in Azure or if a host is running on an Azure Stack HCI. So we don't have to care about that. And we can see that here virtual machine started from a configuration, a scaling configuration, and additional hosts are also started, and that automatically based on the user logging on over the time. So that is exactly the same like Hydra scaling for Azure virtual machines. So no different. What we also can see is that we have a view to the memory and CPU usage with the Hydra agent, which allows us also to take a look what processes are running on the virtual machine. And also the user who is using the processes. That is the same what we can see in the user in the user view here on the user sessions menu item. So what can we do as well? Yeah, we can bring host into drain mode. We can start host. We can stop host. So that is completely the same. We can also, and that is interesting, we can add session host. And if I click on the plus icon, I give the number of session host in, and Hydra will start deploying new session hosts based on the configuration to this host pool. Let us check if it starts. Yeah, it starts creating new session hosts. This will take a little bit longer like normal Azure Virtual Machine. And if you go to the configuration of the host pool, I can show how I configured the autoscaling settings. My autoscaling setting is very simple. I enabled the autoscaling and configured one schedule, and that is configured to always have at least 4 sessions left. And if that's no longer true while users are logging in, Hydra will start a new virtual machine. A note, you can see here, use power on connect. I enabled this, and enabling this checkbox only means that I can go here down to 0. But we must remember right now, Azure Stack HCI don't support power on connect. So if all session hosts are off and the user tries to connect, Microsoft cannot right now start the host in behalf of the user. So that is what we have to remember. The other setting or configuration is new session host rollout, and you will see that it looks like the normal rollout configuration for Azure Virtual Machine, but with a few differences. Most important, we don't have a virtual machine size, but we can enter the number of processors and also the memory. That is a target memory, 16 GB, and if the host starts, it starts first with 8 GB and will increase the memory if needed up to 16 GB. So that is comparable to that what we would use for an Azure Virtual Machine as a VM size. So, and how Hydra would detect that we are talking about Azure Stack HCI host is the network element. In the network element, you can see all available virtual network and also the custom locations or network in the custom locations. So we can see here that is a normal VNet in Azure, and the other networks are in a custom location. And if I select one of the custom location networks, then Hydra knows, we are talking about an Azure Stack HCI, and will reconfigure the settings here. You will also see that some parts are missing compared to an Azure Virtual Desktop, to a rollout of a virtual machine in Azure. That is, for example, that we can right now not join a virtual machine on Azure Stack HCI to enter ID only. So let us go back. So virtual machines are in the creation mode. And if we go then to the user sessions, we will see that there are no differences in. That is exactly the same like in Azure Virtual Desktop in Azure. So no difference here. So we can go to the session host. It's now filtered, and we are back in the view. Okay, so that is also fine. What else? Yeah, what we also can do, and let me show it. We can, like mentioned before, can work like usual. So we can also log off users from a virtual machine. That is for test, and we can also apply scripts or script collection to session hosts. For example, if I would try to update this host with Windows updates, I select the host or hosts, go to the paper plane and select one of my scripts. Windows update was shut down, for example, give it an OK, and then we will see that this script collection is applied or runs on the selected host, in this case on Azure Stack HCI hosts. Sometimes you will see, for example, if you have one step in which switch the disk type from premium to HDD or from HDD to premium, you will see that this step would be skipped, while an Azure Stack HCI virtual machine cannot change the disk. So a few things are not configurable, and in this case not needed. And that is the same if I go back to the hostful configuration. We have our script schedules, and that is also what I do on normal hosts. I do it also here on Azure Stack HCI based host. I install my Windows updates, so the same script, or not install, I run the script collection each Sunday morning. So I'm using that to update my host pools regularly. So let us go back. Important is, if you create a session host, and let me go once back to the rollout configuration, is the image. You can see that I'm using here a custom image which exists on the HCI, and you can see I have different images in. And that is where it starts to get interesting. What I mostly do is that I have a virtual machine, my gold master, and install all the applications on this master. And I'm using then the imaging function of Hydra to capture an image without losing the gold master, to capture an image and then use it to install session host. And that is similar here. There's one thing we have to imagine. The virtual machine, our gold master, must be an Azure virtual machine. So I cannot capture an image from a virtual machine on Azure Stack HCI, but I can capture an image from a normal Azure virtual machine and use this for the deployment of host based on HCI. And for that, we have to do one important step, or we have to remember my gold master which is a normal Azure Virtual Machine based on Windows 11 multi-user with M365 installed. I have installed the Golden Master with this security type standard. And that is very important. We can only upload an image to Azure Stack HCI right now, which is based on the security type standard. And maybe that will change. I will then announce it and also integrate it. But right now, let us use a standard virtual machine, security type standard, and then we can capture an image. So let me show the virtual machine. So that is the Golden Master. I connected to them, and let us do some installation. Chrome is already installed. And then we can use, for example, the night to install an example application. What should we do? Maybe Notepad++, file setter, and what else? Paint.net. So open file. Yeah, like I mentioned before, that is a demonstration of installing software. I'm pretty sure you would install your software, your own software. So that should work very fast. Windows updates are installed and also the virtual machine is updated. That is also what I do if I prepare an image. So while the virtual machine is shutting down, I go back to the Hydra portal, image builder, create an image. I selected the virtual machine and I then select the resource group to store the Azure image. And then if you have a custom location, and Hydra can see the custom location, we will also see Azure Stack HCI, and we can open it and select one of the custom locations as a target. And we can also say, keep the last 3 versions, delete the native Azure image, what will be created in this resource group after that is finished. And then we can create image. And then it starts creating the image. And like always in Hydra, capturing an image, that means Hydra first clone the virtual machine to run the sysprep later on the clone and not on the original virtual machine. So that is important why we would reuse this virtual machine maybe in a few weeks to do some updates, Windows updates, and also application updates, maybe. So that will take a while. And I'll be back if we are ready with the image. So we are back. The image is created and also uploaded to the Azure Stack HCI. You can see it here, uploading this image. And yes, it took a while, nearly 10 minutes, but that is as it is. So now we can go back to our host pool. And we could now create a new virtual machine based on the updated image. I can reconfigure the rollout configuration on the host pool itself. Then all new created hosts are based on the new image, or I can do it for a test only one time. Select the image, the date, that is the correct one, and can now create a session host based on the updated image. Let me give it another name so that we can easily find it. So now we can see our new virtual machine is rolling out, and that based on the updated image or on the new image. That brings me to another point. I mentioned that we can, or that right now, Power on Connect is not working for Azure Stack HCI based virtual machine. But sometimes I have some virtual machines which are in a personal pool and personal assigned, and unfortunately the user cannot click on the desktop in the remote in the AVD client to start the virtual machine, but we have an option to allow the user starting the virtual machine by its own. And for that, let me show the user view. So here my user is logged in to the Hydra portal with the role user. And here the user can see the virtual machine, or its own personal virtual machine on Azure or on Azure Stack HCI, and also its own session if the user has a connected session that can be used for the user to log off the session if something is going wrong and then the session is crashed. But more important here for Azure Stack HCI is that the user can start a host directly from here, or its personal host, and also can deallocate it. That is normally not needed, while Hydra would do that. In Hydra's configuration, I configured that a virtual machine which is not used for a specific time, 30 minutes, will automatically deallocate it if no user is connected. And also have a rule that disconnected sessions are automatically deallocated. So with both configuration, I can ensure that if I close my notebook or the user closes the notebook and go home, that Hydra would, after a while, remove the session, the disconnected session, and then a bit later would deallocate the virtual machine automatically. And what the user can also do, if he is start his working day regularly, he can set a schedule. In this case, the users configured a schedule that the virtual machine is automatically started at 7:45 in the morning. So if the user then connects, the virtual machine is still ready and he don't have to go to the portal to start the virtual machine. So that makes it also easy, I guess, from the user view. Yeah, one important thing I want to mention, we have seen that we can, and let me go once back, and it's really important, if you create an image, we have the option, and that is most important for Azure Stack HCI and different to Azure. If we click on Keep Older Version, then we can configure that only a specific number of versions are left on Azure, on the Azure Stack, on the cluster. It's very important that we know and understand that it's really important that we understand that we shouldn't delete all the images which are in use by virtual machine on Azure Stack HCI. If we do that, we would break the virtual machine. The virtual machine would no longer be able to start if we delete the image where the virtual machine is based on. So that is important. So let us go maybe for all versions or ensure that we no longer having virtual machine based on an older version which could be deleted if you go for this configuration. So that's all. I'm looking forward to hear feedback. Let me know and enjoy.